This is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 54 of the Dreams in Drive podcast. It's 2017 and we have a new year of content for you that I hope inspires you and keeps you encouraged as you put your dreams in drive. Today's episode is with Kyshira Moffett, and we're going to be talking about the 7 steps to launching a successful blog. This episode is brought to you by Curly Clips. Do you have curly or afro-textured hair? Looking for a great versatile protective style? You can add length and volume to your hair in minutes using Curly Clips premium clip-in extensions. Why I love Curly Clips? It's Black-owned, it ships from Philly and London, and with more than 1,000 reviews, it's one of the most trusted hair extension brands. You can learn more about Curly Clips' story and what inspired dream driver Lana Boom to launch the company by checking out episode 13, Starting Over and Creating Your Own Lane. Be sure to visit curlyclips.com and use offer code DREAMDRIVER to save $15 on your first purchase. So we're going to be speaking with Kyshira Moffett, who is a digital brand strategist and the creator of Her Movement, a lifestyle brand that has skyrocketed into a full-fledged movement. One of the things that I think you guys would really enjoy about this episode is listening to Kyshira share her tried and tested techniques on what it takes to launch a successful brand. All the things that she has mentioned is really what she used when starting her own blog and how she's been able to monetize and grow from that. So you guys will definitely love this. I advise you to take notes, so make sure you have a pen, a piece of paper, your iPhone out, your notepad, whatever. Make sure that you are taking notes so that you do not miss any of the great nuggets that she shares. If you want today's show notes, all you have to do is go to dreamsindrive.com and click on episode 54. If you want to join our Dreams in Drive community, just go to dreamsindrive.com/join. Make sure if you are listening to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever, subscribe. And if you really like today's episode, leave a review, share it with a friend, connect with us on social at Dreams in Drive. We're always trying to build our community online and offline, so make sure that you guys are really engaging with the episodes and really, sharing it if you love it. I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully after listening to this one and hearing Kyshira's tips, you'll be motivated to launch your blog if you haven't already, or you'll be motivated to make sure that you are tweaking strategically and that you are growing successfully. Enjoy. Hi, Kyshira. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of Dreams in Drive.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I'm happy that we're finally able to work together and bring our dream drivers some useful content today.
I know I'm such a fan of your podcast, so it's always exciting when the people that you admire, you actually get to work with them.
Oh, thank you. How did you first hear about the podcast?
The way I find out about everything, Twitter, Black Twitter to be exact. And I'm pretty sure someone retweeted you on my timeline, and I'm such a fan of podcasts. As you find yourself on the go more and more, reading becomes more difficult. So I still look for ways to educate. So the podcast world is definitely something that I'm in love with.
What are some of your favorite podcasts?
Definitely My League, the My Taught You podcast.
I love her.
I love the Gary Vee podcast, Side Hustle Pro. Yours, of course, Behind the Brilliance is another top one. And then there's one called The Art of Charm. That's really fascinating and it really intrigues me. The most recent one they talked about was how to sell and how, selling is a part of human nature. And they had Daniel Pink on the show. So that's definitely one of my new favorites.
I'm going to have to check that one out. I'm going to write that down, The Art of Charm.
Yes, and listen to one of the longer episodes, first not the shorter ones, but the longer ones, you'll just find yourself deeply engrossed because it's essentially psychology from a business perspective.
Ooh, okay. I love stuff like that. So I'm definitely going to check that out. But let's get into our podcast episode. So you know how we always love to start our episodes with our guests. So tell me, Kyshira, what inspired you as a child? And if I were to say, describe to me your 8-year-old self, what would that look like?
I was so different as a child. When I was younger, I wanted to be in medicine. I had an obsession with being a doctor, and I would watch all of the medicine shows. And when as I got into high school, I would do the medical programs. And I think part of that came from living with my grandmothers. So my grandmother, my great grandmother, and they were of age, so they were in and out of the hospital all the time. And it just somehow changed paths along the way. But then when I reflect, I feel like I always had this entrepreneurial hustle spirit. My mom says when I was younger, I would cut up my grandma's thread, put it in little Ziploc bags, and sell it as floss to my dad's friends. And was just hustling. Like if someone told me I could have a popsicle, I would go to 5 different people in the house until I got the popsicle. So it's like little things like that. I'm like, okay. So I've always had this little bit of a hustle spirit in me. And I've always aspired to want to do more. But that definition of more has changed over the years.
All right. And how has it changed over the years, do you think?
Yeah, so once I got out of that medicine bubble and decided I wanted to pursue a career in business, that's what has essentially led me here. So I was the HR person in my class. I was in the MBA program. Everyone else wanted to do finance, and I was the HR person. So I worked at my college career center, and I had this expertise in resume writing and cover letters and interviews. So I was the person among my friends that was everyone's little career coach. And I was just doing it because I loved it. And one of my sorority sisters said at the time, someone's going to take advantage of you. You need to start charging people for these services. And I was just like so anti until it actually happened to me and someone did take advantage of me. And so I'm like, okay, I need to start charging for this. And I just started kind of making up prices and doing different things. And ultimately it turned into a blog because I didn't have the time to write as many resumes anymore. So like if I put together a blog, I can give everybody career advice, not just this one person here, one person there. And that blog has now shifted. So I've gone from career advice only to branding advice to just this holistic platform of business, branding, and lifestyle. And so it's interesting to see as you get older how your goals shift and the things that you start to produce shift. And I feel like my blog and my audience, they're growing up with me.
That's so interesting. I think it's just so amazing to see how everything evolved, as you said, and how you eventually came to this place where like you are living in your purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a blessing, too, because a lot of the women that I work with, a lot of my clients, they're still trying to figure out what that purpose is. And it's so freeing and rewarding to not only know what it is, but to say, I'm actually doing it.
So maybe you can tell our dream drivers listening in a little bit more about what it is that you do and the type of services and platforms that you have.
Okay, so my blog is called Her Movement. This is hermovement.com, and it's a one-stop shop for everything business, branding, and lifestyle. So it started as a blog, and I'm proud to say that it really launched into a full-fledged movement. We have a monthly Twitter chat that's really popular. We have a thriving Facebook group, and it's the place to come if you just want to name for yourself outside of your 9 to 5. That does not mean you're looking to pursue entrepreneurship full time because it's not for everybody, but you want a little bit more. You want something else. You want a brand, you want a name, you want some extra coin. And I've created this platform of women across the world who are so supportive of one another. And I think as an only child, I didn't grow up with sisters and all of that. So I've always wanted this sisterhood thing, right? So I've actually created that platform and we come together and we share and we grow and we develop. And on the business side, I provide branding consulting. So I call myself a consultant and not a coach because I like to look at the problem and provide you with a number of solutions, and then you figure out which one makes the most sense to implement, as opposed to a coach is kind of like almost like hand holding you through the journey a little bit and all of that stuff. I'm more of a let me pinpoint the problem, let me give you some solutions and you can implement it. So I've done everything from helping people transition from one job to another, one industry to another, gaining promotions. I've helped people launch businesses and launch blogs, rebrand, a number of things, secure speaking engagements, increase their website visits. It really just depends on that person and what they're looking to do. And from that, I've started to create e-products, so courses that are affordable, ebooks and workbooks for people that they're still trying to figure out what that thing is they even need help with. So these types of do-it-yourself at home products have been very popular as well. So like I said, who would have thought, if you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be writing books and leading webinars, I would have laughed at you. And now it's just a thing of, it's just like second nature.
Wait, so what was your goal 2 years ago then? Like, what was your main focus then?
All I wanted to do was write. Literally, my website was called twomovesahead.net because I wanted to help my audience be 2 moves ahead of the competition. I'm a big fan of chess analogies, and all I wanted to do was write. I just would put stuff out there and hope for the best. At that point, I didn't know what a mailing list was, or I was building a mailing list, but I was never actually emailing people. I didn't know about conversions and sales, but from that blog, I was actually making money because people would still email me and say, I love this content, but I don't actually want to write my own resume. Can you do this for me? And so as I began to get customers and I wasn't trying, I was like, okay, I should actually take this seriously and be more intentional. And that's when it began to develop, when I actually took seriously what essentially God was putting in my lap.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you like to help your clients and the people that are engaged with your brand is the whole topic of how to launch a blog. And I was watching, you Periscope about this topic, you're on YouTube about this topic. So let us do a little mini crash session for our dream drivers listening in, where they can hear Kyshira's tips to how to successfully launch a blog. So let's start with number 1. What's the first thing that we have to do, Kyshira?
The first thing you have to do is identify your why. And when I say that, I don't mean the fluffy, like, look within. Like, I mean, literally, what is the purpose of this website type why? And I say that because, especially now today with there being more blogs, a lot of people are jumping into this game because they see others doing it. And blogging is not as easy as it looks. So if you can't pinpoint why you're actually writing and what this website is about, you're going to struggle. So the first thing I sat down and did, even before I knew this structure, was, why am I writing? Well, I want to help a lot of people at one time as opposed to sit on the phone with everyone. What is this website about? This website is going to be about career development. How can you step into that job on day one and just kill it? So being able to really picture what your blog like that and being able to really identify the why. Because if I ask you, and this happens a lot, what is your blog about? It's about fashion. Okay, what else? Right? Like they kind of leave it at that. Whereas you're in the market competing against thousands of other fashion blogs. What's going to make you different? Why are you writing this site? That is step number 1 for sure.
So one of the things that you talk about a lot on this topic is the idea of making sure you put your unique spin on your blog and on your blog topic. So how did you figure out what was going to be your unique spin for This Is Her movement?
So when I rebranded to This Is Her movement from 2 Moves Ahead, that's when I actually figured out how to do this. And the thing about my unique spin was, yes, there's a lot of career blogs and branding blogs out there, but there were never combined. It was very rare on a website giving you career advice, but you find an article telling you how to launch a business or how to launch a blog. So that was one thing that made me unique. I cater to my audience because they're multifaceted. They have more than one interest and they can focus on more than one thing. The other thing was I didn't want my blog to be boring. The women that follow me, they're very ambitious, but they're feminine too. Like they care about pop culture and lifestyle and fashion. And though they're not getting that stuff, that content from me, they still feel like it because my site is very pretty. It's very girly. I use words like bombshell and I use gifts and things like that where they're still getting the information, but they're getting it in a way that they understand and a way that doesn't make them feel like they're being lectured to. So really thinking about my audience helps me develop my unique selling proposition. So if you ask me about step two for me would say identify your audience, and that'll help you combine who your audience is plus what your site's about while you're writing. You'll be able to figure out that selling proposition because you have to understand what is your audience going to grab onto, what's going to kind of bring them in, what's going to hold them. So you have to know who they are so that you can write and market towards them effectively.
All right. So are there any tools that you would recommend for people who are struggling to figure out who their target audience is, or any exercises they can do?
Yeah. So actually, I have a workbook, a really long workbook, and it's called Launch Your Brand Toolkit.
You can link to it in the show notes.
And it's in there, there's a couple of worksheets on target market identification. The cool thing about launching something new is that the power is in your hands. You can decide who you want to market towards. So when you launch, you can say, my blog is for women, so in the ages of 21 and 30, they live in urban areas, they have bachelor's degrees, et cetera, et cetera. You can figure that out. And then once you actually launch, you can track and see, are you really attracting those people or are you attracting someone else? So that's the easy piece, and that worksheet will help you. But later on, one thing that I did after launch, maybe 6 or 12 months into it, was I surveyed my audience, I reviewed my Google Analytics, and I looked at who's following me on social media. Those are the easiest and free ways to analyze your audience once you actually have one.
What questions did you ask your audience in your survey?
And I just put one out like yesterday. But I asked them, I said, what's your biggest challenge in launching a brand? What makes you hesitant in actually hiring a consultant, right? Because I am looking to get business. I asked them which one of my free webinars or free courses have been the most effective, more so because I'm looking to see how they learn best. I've done a lot of different ways of teaching. I've asked them if they've implemented any of the advice on my site. If so, give me a testimonial. And then I've also collected demographic information, like age, city, state, if they're an entrepreneur, 9-to-5er, et cetera. And then I also asked just generally, well, what do you want to see on the site? What's very interesting about my audience, like on my bombshells, is they are very vocal. Like, it's not like you don't have to ask them too many questions. Like within the hour, I had maybe 15 responses, and these are like paragraph, like length responses. And I think that for me, it's a good thing because that means I've taught them enough that they now know what they're missing or what they need. So, yeah, I mean, be intentional. And yes, I made it something to be as long as mine. I mean, I've seen 2 question ones that were really good, but just be very thoughtful and intentional. Like, don't just ask a question just to ask it. Ask it to get pertinent information that you can actually use.
Definitely. That is a really good tip. And you sent that out via email, your survey?
I did. I sent it via email to my email list. I just used Google Forms to make it, and I made it pretty. I said on Periscope the other day, don't just send out a basic form, make it cute. But I also have a Facebook group that's really active, and I shared the link there, and I gave them incentives. So I'm giving away some really dope prizes if you enter your email at the end, if you're comfortable, that to incentivize people to not only participate honestly. Like everybody, I feel like a lot of us have silent supporters, and you may not readily get those testimonials, and I really wanted to entice them to give me that so I can know what works, what doesn't, what resonated, what didn't.
I love that you said that, the whole idea of silent supporters. I even feel like that with Dreams and Drive in time. Like, there's so many people who will tell me they listen, but they never engage and they never, actually, share posts or do anything. So they're definitely, I love that you had to think of a way to incentivize those silent supporters. And that's something that a lot of us can be doing in our own brands too. So let's go into tip number 3. So after figuring out who your target market is, what's next?
So after you figure that, you produce content. And people look at me crazy when I say that because they're like, oh, I don't have a website yet. I don't have my logo yet. And I'm like, that's the easy part. The hard part is actually producing content. I recommend that when you launch, you have at least 5 posts on that site when you launch. Not just one blog post that's an introduction. Like, no one cares. You have to have 5 pieces of real content on that site so that people can click around and see if they actually like you and see if they actually vibe with how you communicate, right? So have things up there already makes you look good. And then if you have the time, I recommend, let's say you're a blogger that's only writing once a week. So we'll use that example. Have 5 more posts in your arsenal. That gives you 5 weeks where you don't have to worry about producing content, and you can now market and network. You can spend your time being very intentional, promoting this blog and networking with other bloggers online. That takes a lot of time. So I say produce content. If you're struggling to put out 10 pieces of content, I question whether you should be writing about that topic.
So if someone does find themselves at that crossroad, would you tell them to go back to step number 1?
Yes, absolutely. And I say that because buying a website seems cheap at first, but I've seen a lot of people come and go in my time as a blogger with gorgeous websites, beautiful logos, and they stop writing after a month. They are gone. I've seen this happen time and time again. And I'm like, that money you put into the designer, that money you probably paid for Squarespace, the money you probably paid for the custom email address is now gone to waste because you didn't spend the time up front figuring out if you're truly an expert at what you're writing in. And if you find yourself stuck right there, don't feel bad. Go back to square one. And I tell people all the time, it is okay to be in a niche. You can write about one thing and then get good at other things and add that in. Like if you're an expert at something, people will start asking about other stuff anyway. Mm-hmm. Trust me. I always say my expertise is branding, and my audience will still ask me about finance, still ask me about legal, still ask me about etc. But that's where having a network comes in. I readily admit when I don't know. I refer you to an expert, and they appreciate that. So, but they ask me those things because they trust me, because I'm good at what I do and I don't steer them wrong. So they just make an assumption, oh, you must know everything. So don't be afraid to actually, for a while, put yourself in a little box. Be good at that craft. Be good at that one thing. In the blogging world, writing about everything early on isn't always the best idea because it's easy to get lost in the sauce. Like, I want to be the person you come to when you're ready to like take dreams and drive to the next level, or when you're ready to like do your speaking tour, like, because you know that I'm the person to go to take your brand to the next level. If I was writing about 10,000 things, you probably would never think of me first. And I want to always be first, right? And you should have that mentality of, you're the go-to site for what am I wearing to work tomorrow. You're the go-to site for my date night makeup, etc. Think about how you can build your brand in that essence. So writing content first helps.
All right, so number 4, what's next then? You got your content. Now what do you do?
Now you get into the pretty stuff. So now you make your brand palette. And your brand palette is like this digital kit that you're essentially making where you have your logos, your logo variations. You'll have the fonts that you use. So maybe you use 2 to 3 different fonts on your site. You want to use those all the time, every time. The color codes for your brand colors. You want to use the same ones every time, all the time. Those things in particular are important. If there are certain hashtags, catchphrases that you always use, you want to put that there. And the importance of that. And then I also sometimes in my brand palette will make a mini mood board. And a mood board is like a visual representation of how your brand should feel. Right? So if people always use the example, when you're going to Target, how do you feel? When you're going to Starbucks, how do you feel? When someone comes on my website, how should they feel? And this is very helpful because if you decide to ever outsource your design to somebody, you have something to give them. And they can take it and actually make something based on what that is. There's nothing worse than having someone do a website and the colors is like yellow, orange, and black, and your brand colors is pink and white. Like I don't, or it's the wrong shade of pink, right? So that's where that brand palette comes in, because even if your website is a DIY, at some point you're going to redo it. At some point you're going to rebrand or expand or hire someone. So having that brand palette is helpful. Or if you get interns or you outsource your social media design, you want to be able to give that brand palette to other people.
Okay, that's so good. And I think that's something that a lot of people often don't actually think about, making a concise document that has all that stuff. They just want to put everything in other places. And it's just so hard, especially as you start building your team and as you start having different projects going on, to not have that all in one place. So I love that you said that. All right, so we're just going to interrupt this episode just for a little bit. Have you ever had one of those days where you're meeting with a client, prepping for a job interview, going to a photo shoot, or just spending a night out with your boo and wish you could just have a quick go-to hairstyle? There have been so many times when I've had bad hair days and just wish I could just clip in and go. And as someone who's building a brand, it's always important to show up and look your best. And there's something about having your hair done in a way that represents you that's the ultimate confidence builder and day maker. That's why I'm recommending Curly Clips premium clip-in extensions for natural hair for all my dream drivers out there. Why? They're snap-on and snap-off, so they're fast and easy to use. The hair comes in 3 different textures, so you can find something that looks natural and feels good. And there's also limitless style options. Their YouTube channel has dozens of care and styling tutorials, so even if you're a newbie, the videos make it so easy to figure everything out. Curly Clips is Black-owned. Lana Boone created it after she couldn't find clip-in extensions to match her natural hair. She shares her story in episode 13, so make sure to check that out when you guys have some time. Overall, I'm a huge fan of clip-in extensions and a fan of the versatility of the Curly Clips experience, from their story to the fast shipping to the branding, the product, and lastly, customer support. You won't be disappointed. And we have a special code for you dream drivers. All you have to do is go to curlyclips.com now, and Lana will give you $15 off when you use offer code DREAMDRIVER with your first purchase. That's curlyclips.com with the K, so it's KURLYKLIPS.com. Enter offer code DREAMDRIVER for $15 off. I hope you guys enjoy your beautiful new style. Let's get back to today's episode. All right, so I have my brand palette. I just did all my content. I got my target customer, my target audience, and my topic down pat. What's next?
So now we're going to do a simultaneous step. You're going to build the website or hire someone else to do it, and you're going to be out promoting. So you're going to build an audience on social media. You're going to brand yourself online. Figure out, based on who your audience is, what social media makes sense for you to be on. Even if you are someone that decides that Instagram is like your only thing, still own your profiles on Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, all of that stuff. Because if later on, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, you decide you want to get on those sites, the worst thing in the world is to get on and see someone has your name. Your stomach gonna be hurt. So don't do that.
I know somebody who did that and they were like, oh my God. I'm like,
Yeah. Like something as simple as, I used to be afraid to use my name on social media as my handles because my name isn't the easiest. It's pretty hard. You have to spell it, etc. And I decided one day, I'm like, I'm going to be like Oprah, put my name on everything. Well, there is somebody on Twitter that has my name as their Twitter handle. And the profile's been inactive for 3 years. They've only tweeted like 4 times and I cannot get control of this profile. So I'm real hashtag salty right now because like Twitter is the only profile where I can't own my own government name. So I say lock down all those profiles and then really concentrate your efforts on the 1 or 2 profiles that you're going to really use, right? So now's the time to start using branded social media graphics. You can use canva.com, you can use Photoshop, you can use PicMonkey, WordSwag. These are just some recommendations. And start putting up little branded graphics. So anybody can put a quote on Instagram. That's fine. But what you don't want to do is post other people's content. It's just like, not that anything's wrong with it, but your profile will now not be your brand. It won't have your brand feel, and your Instagram or your Twitter just will look out of order. So you want to make your own branded graphics, tweets. If you're expert, little tips. You want to start building a following on social media, and you, at the same time, a countdown. This blog is coming soon. It's coming soon. You don't have to have a full event to launch, but the whole point of this whole like profile thing is you want to have somebody to launch to. So build excitement. You can build an email list without a website. You can use MailChimp.com, the free version. You can customize the landing page. Use Bitly, bit.ly, to create a custom link, like a short link to get people to sign up. And you can get people on this mailing list to have somebody to launch to when the blog is ready.
So for this stage, what did you do? If you want to think back to your own platforms, what was one concrete thing that you did to help promote?
Right. So I'm going to go back, not to when I first started, but to my rebrand. So I put up a landing page and worked on my website in the background. So the landing page just had a picture of me, a professional photo of me, my new social media handles, and like a subscribe option. And it was just like, sign up to be the first to know about her movement. And her movement was this new thing that had no real meaning. And I would direct people there as I was providing quick tips and things like that on Facebook, on Twitter and Instagram mainly. So that was a tool that I was using to really promote while I was building a site again on the back end. Because early on, it was mostly friends and families and HR professionals that were following me, but I wanted to shift that when I decided to rebrand. So, if you have the capability to do a landing page on your own site, to get people there and start to get them signed up, that would be great. Even better if you could figure out how to make some kind of cool freebie, like an opt-in, like a one-page guide or a mini ebook or something that relates to your expertise to get to entice people to want to sign up for your list. Even better. But it's not required early on. But the whole big thing is like, I say this all the time, don't drop your blog like a mixtape. Don't just show up at midnight with this new link, right? It's really good to build excitement, and people mistake that for, I have to have a big launch party or a big launch event. Like, no, you can do this 2 weeks before and start doing little Instagram videos, Twitter videos, Periscope, behind the scenes, working on this, or you can expect that, and start doing little things like that to show people what they can expect from you. Like, dang, if her Instagram story is this good, I can't wait to see what the blog is about. So you have to think strategically about the blog even before you monetize it. So thinking about it as a product that you're trying to now launch to a market.
And for the building your website part, do you recommend someone do this themselves, or that they should outsource this part?
Depends on how much money you have, right? So if you are not working with a big budget, you can do it yourself. You can use Squarespace, WordPress, Blogger. If you have a little extra money, you can definitely outsource it. It just depends on your current situation. Everybody can't do that. For me, the problem that I struggle with and why I can tell you guys so matter-of-factly all of these steps is because a lot of the stuff I didn't do, which is why my site's been redone 3 times. And I had a designer for the first 3 times. The site that I have now, I built it myself because I didn't take the time to do the brand palette the first couple times. I didn't take the time to figure out the unique selling proposition when I first put the site out there. It was just my bio on the about page. And so the designer never produced what actually felt good to me. And so I decided to scrap that all together and spend the time building it myself. And now my site is beautiful. It's gorgeous, and it's what I want it to be. But I did use a template-based site, but I customized that template. So the other thing is you have to also have some kind of eye for design, though. So even if you can't afford a designer, maybe you should work with some kind of brand strategist to at least give you feedback, right? Like let you know, like, does this convey what you wanted to convey? Because if you don't have an eye for design, a lot of stuff looks crazy, and you want to make sure that you don't look crazy, essentially.
No, crazy is never, ever, ever good. All right. So number 6 then. So number 5 was 2 steps in one, right? Build your website at the same time as you're promoting. So what would number 6 be?
So the number 6 is your launch. You put the site out and you promote like crazy. So if you have a fear of self-promotion, now's the time to get over it. That may mean using a social media management system and scheduling tweets and Facebook statuses or whatever, but you need to put yourself out there. And at the same time, set aside time each week to actively engage. So what that means is being in Twitter chats, jumping on Periscope, following people on Instagram and commenting on their Instagram posts, like whichever social media network essentially is your thing, be out there. But you want to build your audience in that way. So you have to essentially network online. And so one way, my Twitter following is the largest because I've invested the most time there. But one way I built my brand on Twitter is being in Twitter chats and making sure those chats were aligned to my brand and just literally just going all in. Like I don't hold back advice or feedback online because I want someone to pay me for it. Like, no, if I'm an expert, I should be able to tell you a lot of stuff online and a lot more over the phone. So don't be afraid to get in Twitter chats or other things like that and really just drop knowledge. Like, show that you know what you're talking about. And that's how opportunities will come your way.
Mm-hmm. What kind of opportunities have come your way just by engaging?
Speaking engagements, mostly collaborations with other bloggers as well. When I transitioned careers the first time, I got my new job because of a blog post.
Wow.
So it really, I've been very fortunate that I think the thing that I'm the most proud of, though, is just the network that I've built. I don't have very many friends personally that want to be entrepreneurs. So I've built friends across the country that are doing different business types. Like, we're not all like brand consultants or whatever. And I've never met them, but they're so supportive. Like, they'll share things without me saying, they'll buy certain products, we'll text each other and kind of give each other encouragement. And that's something that I'm so proud of because I'm a fan of just supporting other people and not feeling like everything is a competition all the time.
Definitely. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially starting out, are fearful of doing. Like, I don't understand it, but I've had people who are like, no, I don't want to talk to someone who's kind of in my same niche. And I'm just like, why not? Those people could probably be the ones that could help you. And just because they're talking to the same people that you're talking to doesn't mean they're talking to them the same way. So stop looking at people as your competitors all the time. And you can definitely get so much more when you start looking at them as potential collaborators,
Yeah, absolutely. Like, one of my favorite people in this world is, her name is Aja Corinne, and she's a brand strategist as well, but her niche is fashion. So she'll help you with brand strategy, but her big thing is how do you showcase your brand through your style? And she's someone that I looked up to, and we're now working on a collaboration together. And I featured her on my site. When I was a career coach, I featured the fabulous Ariel Lopez of 2020 Shift on my site because we do the same thing, but we're marketing to different people. And I'm secure enough in myself to know that there's enough money out here for all of us. Like, we can all win. And it's just like when I worked in higher ed, I would tell my students, like, when you go to these career fairs, network with other business school students. You guys are going to be in a workplace together, and you don't know who your boss is going to be. So you want people to always think highly of you and reach while they're climbing, and vice versa. When you move up, take people with you, and you will reap essentially what you sow.
Mm-hmm. So what's one thing that you think has been a challenge for you throughout your whole blogging career and building your business and all of that?
Outsourcing. Outsourcing is a challenge for me because it's my baby. And people keep telling me to get an intern, get an apprentice, and I want to, but it's just like putting my baby literally in someone else's hands scares me.
I know, girl. I understand you on that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like at some point I'm gonna have to. Like there is no way. Like right now I've been really good at scaling, but one day I'm gonna have to, and it's just like, okay, I'm holding on to the baby as long as I can, but at some point the baby has to go off to school, So, that's my biggest challenge.
Definitely. And I think the whole idea of scaling, because, depending upon what your goal is for your blog, and I think that's one thing that maybe we can even add into that, is figuring out some type of goal, something that you're working towards. So if your goal is to one day launch and be whatever, something, maybe let me think of an example. Let's say your goal is to be the #1 blog resource for fashion students in Detroit, whatever, right? Like if you know that's your goal and you have to build up to that, then I think sometimes we need to realize in order to get to that goal, there may be a time where you can't do everything yourself too. So definitely being aware of your goals and being aware of where you want the site to grow to will help you maybe be a little bit more open to giving your baby to someone else.
Yeah, something as small as I hosted my first conference this past summer. So I brought her movement to life, and I was good up until the day of the event. And then I realized, okay, how am I going to speak at this and live tweet and take pictures and do this and do that? And luckily my friends just like wrapped their arms around me. They're like, we knew you was going to need us, girl. We're here. And having them take pictures for me, having them work registration, having them work the food line and let me get my life. Like, it's like that moment and that experience really helped me see clearer. Like people can help me. It's okay. And all of that stuff. So I'm getting there prayerfully.
So you talked about a lot of tools today that we can use when launching your blog, but do you have anything that you would say is on your top 5 list? Definitely these are things that you must have as part of your toolkit.
Okay, things that should be a part of your toolkit. And I'm going to get very tangible on this. So I mentioned earlier that I host a Twitter chat, which means I reach out to people all the time, other influencers, and ask them for very simple things. Your bio, your photo, your Twitter handle, your bio, etc. And a lot of people take forever to get back to me because they don't have these things. So number one, get a headshot. Get a couple if you can afford it. Get a couple of professionally done pictures, and they don't necessarily have to be the standard boring you in a suit with a white background. You can do things that show your personality, but having professionally done pictures comes in handy all the time. Something as simple as, being on this show, I need to provide you with a headshot. You don't want to be the person on the flyer on the panel with the selfie or with the car photo. Like, you just don't want to be that person. It sounds like a sore thumb. So 1, get your headshots. Number 2, write your bio and write it in third person. Have it. Actually, make it long so you can tweak it per engagement and put in relevant facts about yourself. Write the bio before you need it. And the third thing that you have to have is an elevator pitch. You have to be able to quickly and concisely tell me what your blog is about, what your brand is about, and or what your business is about. And if it takes you 5 minutes to get it out, you've already lost me at 45 seconds in. So having that elevator pitch is so, so crucial.
All right, so one thing I want to ask you before we wind this up is I want to ask you, how do you balance it all? Because you definitely still have a regular 9 to 5, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are your tips for balancing it for that woman who wants to do both?
It's really rooted in discipline. Because in order to stay on top of it, I have to do things in advance. I can't post in real time. I can't write the week of. I just can't. So that means sitting down once a week, maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, and writing, batch producing content. That may mean sitting down and scheduling my social media, writing my emails, doing all of that stuff. So it really takes discipline from me because I have enough time to do it. But if I procrastinate, then it's going to feel like I don't have enough time. And when I remember when I was in college, they would say you have 24 hours in a day. And that's still very important now. Like if you're saying that, you're trying to build this brand outside of your 9 to 5, but you're still sleeping in, like I don't understand how you're building that brand. Mm-hmm. Like you have to sacrifice some things. So Saturday mornings, you can't sleep till noon. You should get up, same time you get up for work, dedicate a couple hours when everybody else is asleep to working on that brand and working on that business. So it really is rooted in discipline. And discipline is something that you have to find within. I can give you all the time management hacks in the world, but if you don't have discipline, they're not going to work for you.
Definitely. So let's go to our lightning round. So this part of our interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, Kyshira, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind. And you definitely have heard this since you've listened to previous episodes. So hopefully this is still fun for you to actually do. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So the first word is park.
Preparation.
Reverse.
Reflection.
Neutral.
Observation.
Drive.
Execute.
So, Kyshira, if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So tell us 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road.
So, couple things. One is you have to have this sense of urgency. And I say that not necessarily meaning you have to rush to do everything, but you have to recognize that if you sit on something too long, somebody else is going to execute it, and then you're going to be mad. So don't be afraid of failing or something not working. Don't sit on it too long. Have a sense of urgency and put it out there and test the market and see. So that's one. Number 2 is you definitely have to have some discipline, because no one's going to wake you up and force you to work on your business. There's going to be times when your blog is getting no clicks or your business is getting no sales, and you have to continue to do it in spite of. And not necessarily get frustrated when things don't go your way. And then the last thing is you have to build your network. Even for my introverts and my shy people out there, you still have to make it a priority and a point to build your network. And I think social media makes it easier for us introverts to do this, but it has to be an intentional effort. So I would want, when I started out, I set a goal to connect with at least 5 people that I followed on Twitter a month, and connecting meaning sending them an email, asking them for a phone call. Mm-hmm. And in a phone call, I wasn't asking them for anything. I just wanted to get to know them better and get to know their goals. And later on, a collaboration probably would happen, but I just wanted to be viewed as a resource for you first, and not just someone that was kind of sucking something out of you. And that's something that I think people are kind of losing when it comes to networking, where it's like, oh, I'm networking because I want you to buy something. I'm networking because I want you to collab with me, as opposed to I genuinely think you're dope. Like, I want to work with you. And people that I pitch for collabs, I'm pitching it because I know that I can be value too, right? Like, mm-hmm. I know that at this point in the game, I'm confident to say that I have something to offer. And so having an established network already also helps build credibility for me.
And how did you build that confidence? Because I think that's something that a lot of us often struggle with, is getting to that point where we feel like we're credible and we feel like we're worthy where we are. So maybe just give us some tips for building confidence throughout this whole blogging process.
That's a hard one. Confidence for me came a little easier because I knew what I was talking about, right? So I knew that I was blessed with this expertise. It was more about being comfortable tooting my own horn consistently. Like, I'm the type of person, like, I'll tell you I won an award, but I'm only going to tell you one time. Like, I wasn't going to keep putting something out there, and I had to really take a hard look at what's the point of being great if nobody knows it. If I have this expertise, but nobody knows I have it, no one cares. And so I really had to get comfortable also with the fact that my expertise is helping other people. So if I don't put it out there, I'm being selfish, because this is not about me. My purpose and path is bigger than me. It's about the people that I can impact. And literally your success is my success. So recognizing that, placing my confidence in the fact that I'm impacting other women to literally be powerful, like that is a confidence boost in itself for me. And so you have to figure out, how do you define that? You have to figure it out for yourself, because what may work for me may not necessarily work for you. But I always say, if you don't believe in you, then why should I?
Mm-hmm. That is such a great way to end, Kyshira. Thank you so much. Can you tell our dream drivers where we can find you online?
Yes, you can visit me at thisishermovement.com for all of your business, branding, and lifestyle tips. I'm on Twitter at Kyshira M, as well as on Instagram and Snapchat, just at Kyshira. I already told you guys that story.
All right, thanks so much, Kyshira.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 54 with Kyshira Moffett. I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to her share her dream driving story and her keys to success. If you loved today's episode, make sure to go on iTunes and leave a review. Let us know what you think about each and every Dreams and Drive episode that you listen to. Share it with a friend. Engage with us on social at Dreams and Drive. It's always so good to go back and hear from you, Dream Drivers. So I'd really appreciate it if you showed some love that way. Remember, if you want today's show notes, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 54. And don't forget to join our Dreams and Drive community, and you can do that by going to dreamsanddrive.com/join. Thank you once again to our episode partner, Curly Clips. Make sure that you guys use that code DREAMDRIVER to get $15 off your first purchase. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll talk to you guys in episode 55.